Now the next class of vertebrates that we are going to study is the class of frogs and toads, the class Amphibia. Okay, so we are going to study about amphibians. Now before we move to the characteristics of the class, let's break the word. Amphi means both. Alright, and in the case of amphibian is something or some organism which can survive in both aquatic as well as terrestrial habitats. So now these organisms are going to be a bit more advanced than those of the class Pisces. Amphibians can survive in both terrestrial as well as aquatic atmospheres. Now why they are amphibians? They can survive in terrestrial places, but they need aquatic atmosphere or aquatic surroundings for their reproductive processes. That means the reproduction cannot be completed unless they go and do the process of spawning in water. Now for that they need water, and that is why we trace that they have evolved from fishes itself. Okay. Now when we talk about amphibians, we talk about frogs and toads and salamanders, the very poisonous species. If I say that the most poisonous organisms on the earth belong to class Amphibia, it won't be wrong, because the snakes are not that poisonous as compared to the most poisonous poison dart frogs and the very poisonous salamanders. Few species of them are highly poisonous, so much poisonous that a touch of their a prick in their skin and that prick goes inside your body, you can die on the spot. So much of poison they have. So in the class Amphibia, we have to come across a term known as cold-blooded, and keep in mind that the class Pisces also had the organisms which were cold-blooded. Now what does cold blood means? It does not mean that the blood of the organism would be lower than that of room temperature, nothing like that. In the case of cold-blooded organisms, we have a proper mechanism inside the body of organism which is missing, and that mechanism is found in the case of warm-blooded organism. Now what you see over here is that we have a contrasting characteristics that is going to be observed in the vertebrates, the organisms which are cold-blooded and the organisms which are warm-blooded. Keep in mind that all classes of the vertebrates are cold-blooded except the class which have birds, that is class Aves, you are going to know about it, and the class which has mammals in it. So in the entire world, biological world, if only the organisms which are capable of regulating their internal temperature, they are only aves and mammals. Rest all organisms are cold-blooded. Now what does cold-blooded mean? It means that if the organism is kept in a certain environment, it is not going to maintain its internal environment. Now take the example of your own body. Your own body has a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, that is what we talk about, or 98 degree Fahrenheit. That is the standard temperature of your body. Be it kept in the heat of the desert or in the cold area of an Arctic zone. So whatever the temperature outside, whatever the temperature may be prevalent outside, the body is not going to change that 37 degrees Celsius temperature. That is what is in your case. So is in the case of rest of the mammals. Whatever temperature is suitable for their body activities, they have chosen that, and they spend immense amount of energy on maintaining that temperature. The food that you consume, almost 70% of the energy of that food is used for maintaining that internal temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. Now that condition is the condition of regulatory mechanism which classifies us into the category of warm-blooded animals, because whatever the condition may be outside, whether you are in the deserts of Libya where the temperature is 50 degrees Celsius, your body temperature won't be 50 degrees Celsius, it would be 37 only, in case you are a healthy human being. If you go to Antarctica, then also your body would make sure that you would act in a weird way, you would start shivering so that the temperature remains constant. Your body does not have lower temperature. What happens if it gets lower or higher? You feel feverish, or you would have hypothermia sort of condition which may lead to death. Now that is the condition known as warm-blooded condition. Okay. I have done my part of explaining warm-blooded organisms, which I had to explain in the subsequent sections of these classes. Now coming to the cold-blooded organisms, contrary to the warm-blooded organisms which can regulate their internal environment, these organisms cannot regulate it. How? Take the example, supposedly you keep a frog in the cold atmosphere or the cold temperature. Do you ever find a frog in winters? No, you will not find it. Do you ever find particular snake in winters? No, you say that they go and hibernate. You don't find insects in winters. The lizards in the houses, it is often seen, the wall lizard, it goes missing somewhere when it comes around winter timing is there. There is a winter season, onset of winters, you would find them then, and then they are gone somewhere. Where have they gone? Why have they gone? They have gone because the reason is that they cannot maintain their internal temperature. Whenever the temperature is right, that time only they are going to come out. Now that is the condition known as cold-blooded organism condition, and those organisms cannot regulate their internal temperature. Supposedly you take a frog and keep it at a temperature, ambient temperature around 30 degrees Celsius. The internal temperature of frog's body would also be 30 degrees Celsius. If it happens to be minus 15, the frog would be dead by then because it cannot regulate its internal temperature, its enzymatic activity would stop. If you take it to 70 degrees Celsius, then also frog is going to die because the internal body temperature is not going to be maintained at a steady state. Instead, it would try to reach at 70 degrees Celsius. That is why these organisms, they hide. Whenever the temperature is high, they would hide. Whenever the temperature is low, they would hide so that they can survive, and that's why they are cold-blooded organism. Now coming over this term, it was way off the track, but you need to be aware of what cold-blooded organisms are and what warm-blooded organisms are. Now as we are talking about amphibians, they are cold-blooded. First thing that is to be remembered. Second thing that is to be remembered, like unlike the Pisces are also cold-blooded organisms, as I told you. Like Pisces, they do not have scales on their body. As you can see in the picture, they do not have scales. Their heart is 3-chambered. In the case of Pisces, we had a 2-chambered heart. They are having 3-chambered heart, where the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood takes place, but not as much as in the case of fishes. They do not have gills, rather they have moist skin. The scales are absent, and the skin which was supposed to have scales, it is having glands on it, okay, moist glands that makes the skin slimy. Now this slimy skin serves the purpose of respiration. Apart from their mouth, they have slimy skin which acts as the surface of respiration, and they have a 3-chambered heart. They do not have scales on their body. Limbs are present. There are 4 limbs, as you can see, and this one is a limbless amphibian, that is Ichthyophis. If you can remember the name, it's good. If you can't, just come over it. This is a limbless amphibian. You find larval stages in them known as tadpole. The example is salamander, frog, toad, and this is all you have to remember in the case of class Amphibia. Do remember what we have discussed about the cold-blooded organisms, and one thing you have to keep in mind, that the amphibians are going to need water for their reproduction, and one thing more, that they lay eggs. They do not give birth to their young ones. That is going to be a stage which we are going to find in the case of mammals. Over here they are going to lay eggs, and the reproduction takes place in water. Without water the reproduction cannot take place, and we see a proper sexual differentiation. Male and female frog are different, as you must be knowing, and this is all about class Amphibia.